Slick and Shiny tongue-in-cheek productions now takes another look at Bolivar, Pennsylvania, not to be confused with Bolivar, Pennsylvania. Bolivar is the one in the northeastern part of Westmoreland County, up along the Conemaugh River. And we'll see some pictures of Bolivar. And in this picture, we are looking over it, pretty much looking southeast. The really important part of the town is not showing. It's over here. And this left side is where you would see the railroad and the Conemaugh River, which doesn't show up. This is the newer section of town up here. You can see it's built with a bit more care and construction and zoning, so that you have lots carefully laid out. Also up here is the school, the town's public school. And we will get a look at that. That was the old Bolivar Public School. And there's not a lot of comment to make on that. This contraption here was referred to as the fly trap. And I'm not about to tell you why, because I don't know. But it was an area where you were working where people wanted to go to various sides of the river. That's the Conemaugh River. They're jumping over there. The one town up there, Bolivar, was on the south side of the river. And another town up there, Robinson, was in the next county. But they also made fire brick up there, which they made in Bolivar. Now that was once upon a time the bank. When this picture was taken, it was no longer a bank. It had the one of the fire brick companies, Garfield Refractories, owned it, and it was using it as their office. But we are told that once upon a time, when this building was a bank, there was a robbery, and you can still find the holes in the wall that the robbers shot bullets in. Enlarging a bit, that was once upon a time a car dealership, and it served other uses. A place where you get your car fixed, and other things happened there. One of the often seen buildings. This showed us what Washington Street may have looked like, did look like back in the days when it wasn't the really old days, because what you could see are poles here for electric lighting. There was electricity after the first decade of the 1900s. After the first decade of the 1900s, Bolivar, like a lot of towns, put in their own electric generating station and then eventually tapped into the grid. This was one of those lunch counters kind of place. This guy and his wife are sitting out there, and it was one of the places in Bolivar where you could go to get a meal and sit down and maybe meet your friends and have something that didn't cost too much. This was a place in Oliver run by a guy named Ollie. Ollie didn't specialize in anything in particular, but he sold just about everything in general. Whatever it was, you could usually find it at Ollie's place. Now, this is one of those older houses that date from the canal era. Bolivar was built at a time when the canal was being built in the late 1820s into the 1830s. And there's still a few houses there that relate to that time. This is another one. This is a brick house also. This part back here is a later addition, wood frame building. Another building at the corner of Washington and 2nd Streets that does relate to the old era of the canals. This one was most likely built as also a store. But at the time this picture was taken, it had been boarded up. Some of the brick building companies in Bolivar built company houses, and these are some of the company houses. These are Reese Hammond fire brick houses. What you can see is that they had two basic plans. This one and this one were the same. This one and this one were the same. They varied them so that as not to be too monotonous. One of the large families instrumental in implementing the development of Bolivar was the Hammond family. The Hammond and Robinson families were the two important families in promoting the place. Hammond, one of the Hammond family had this as their home. You can see someone out here taking care of it. This also was built for a purpose of, well, it went through a number of purposes. It was, at one time, the office of one of the fire brick companies and other things. And at time, it became Bolivar's municipal building, the borough building. This gives us a look at some of the street development, showing how you can see places, houses from different periods of time. This is more contemporary ranch style. These are the older buildings. Across the street, there's a garage. This is the building here on the street coming right into town. This is either coming in or going out, depending on which way you're going. This was the Conemaugh River out here and the railroad going over. This was the original main line of the Pennsylvania Railroad. Another one of the streets showing something of a concern for style. This is one of the a style that in Europe that would be referred to as Second Empire. Sometime in this country they may have been referred to as a President Grant style, right next to this, which I might think of as Victorian vernacular. This was the Methodist church in town in Bolivar. Here at the corner of Market Street, we see the post office. Schaefer Street. Not that long ago, because you see the electric generating outfit is still working. This looks like it may have been one of the original arc lights. Even though you hear sometimes the term arc light used, very few lights around anymore are arc lights, but this looks like one of them, where they had an actual carbon arc where a electric spark jumped across. They were usually replaced eventually. This is mapping from 1860 showing Bolivar on the Conemaugh. This map shows all three transportation routes. This is the Conemaugh River. This line here shows the original canal that was being built in the 1820s, 1830s. And by the 1850s, the railroad then came in. The railroad put the old canal out of business and eventually bought up the property of the old Pennsylvania Canal. And it was the railroad that then was responsible for keeping the industry and prosperity of the town going. I think we've said enough. This is our third and final one on Bolivar. I'm going to say so long now, and thanks for coming along on the trip. Bye now.